How many COVID shots did you take?
0.
Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy, Benny. We are here in Palm Beach for ActCon with Turning Point USA. But in Iowa right now, there is the Family Leadership Summit where Tucker Carlson is grilling some of the presidential candidates, 5, and he is absolutely committing murder, suicides on stage. This tweet is going thermonuclear. Mike Pence ending his career. I've never seen a presidential candidate commit suicide on stage before. Mike Pence literally gets his career ended by Tucker Carlson in this moment. I've never seen anything like it. Tucker Carlson talks about the problems in America, and Mike Pence says, I'm not concerned with those, and then goes on to talk about how much he loves Ukraine. Check this out.
We're saying maybe January we'll let somebody transfer some jets.
I'm sorry, Mr. Vice President. Have you? I know you're running for president. You are distressed that the Ukrainians don't have enough American tanks. Every city in the United States has become much worse over the past 3 years. Yeah. Drive around. There's not one city that's gotten better in the United States. And it's visible. Our economy has degraded. The suicide rate has jumped. Public filth and disorder and crime have exponentially increased. And yet your concern is that the Ukrainians, a country most people can't find on a map, who've received tens of billions of U.S. tax dollars, don't have enough tanks. I think it's a fair question to ask, like, where's the concern for the United States in that?
Well, it's not my concern. Tucker, I've heard that routine from you before, but that's not my concern. I'm running for president of the United States because I think this country's in a lot of trouble.
It's worth actually reading the dialogue. I'm sorry, Mr. Vice President, you're distressed that Ukrainians don't have enough American tanks. Every city in the United States has become worse over the past 3 years. Drive around. There's not one city that's gotten better. It's visible. The economy's degraded. Suicide rates jump. Public filth, disorder, crime. Ukrainians not having enough tanks. That's your problem. Where's your concern for the United States? That's not my concern, says Pence. This is the end of a man's life. This is the end of a man's political career. You will never be able to recover from this. Trust me, I've done this a very long time. You will never be able to recover from this moment, Mike Pence. So you're done. You're done. But Tucker Carlson wasn't done yet. Tucker Carlson just absolutely going like a lawnmower on a hot summer's day in Sawgrass through the GOP field of cucks and of rhinos who want to effectively run just so that they can try and take out Trump. Tucker grills Tim Scott on the Ukraine conflict. Why not force peace? Check this out.
You know, the Third World War very quickly. So why not force a peace?
How would you do that?
Well, you could tell Ukraine, and they are a client state of the United States. Without American backing, there's kind of no Ukraine. We're literally paying the salaries of their bureaucrats. We want you to sit down, as they tried to do, but were stopped by our government, and stop this war. Yeah. And reach a peace as one does, where both sides, you know, concede some of their interests. Like, why wouldn't that be in our interest to do that?
I think the faster we get to peace, the better off we are. What we don't want to do, from my perspective, is allow ourselves to ask for a premature peace that cannot be achieved as the alliances continue to come together. To the extent that we can find our path out of this situation, the better off we are.
So what's the point at which we'll know that we've achieved our goal? And I say that within the context of having watched 20 years of occupation in Afghanistan, where nobody could answer the question, what's the point? Yes. And no one in Congress ever asked that question, amazingly. So what is the specific goal here?
Yeah, so I would say that the objective should be for Zelensky and Ukraine to be able to achieve victory by maintaining as much of their territory as they possibly can, and then seeing the resources that we've deployed, along with our Western alliances, achieving the peace that I believe comes when you get these two folks to sit down and have a conversation that allows them to determine where those lines will be drawn for the next 100 years.
Ooh, man, Tim Scott. You know, I got like necessarily nothing against Tim Scott, but he's on the wrong side of history on that one. Mike Pence, again, just absolutely obliterated. How about Nikki Haley? Tucker Carlson. Nobody would say Joe Biden is a great candidate. He didn't campaign. He was not a figure who commanded any respect among Democrats. Nobody said, I want my kids to grow up to be Joe Biden. So how did he get 81 million votes? 15 million more than Barack Obama. Asking the questions that these people deserve to be asked. And Nikki Haley just straight up jaw on the floor, shaking. Check it out.
You think about the last election and what happened. Historic numbers for the current president. 81 million votes. 15 million more than Barack Obama. Twice the population of New York City more than Barack Obama. What do you think of that?
In terms of Biden?
Yeah. 81 million votes. They are saying that Joe Biden got 81 million votes. And my question is, do you accept that? And second, how do you think he did that?
I mean, all I care about is changing that. Like, we can't afford a President Kamala Harris. I will say that over and over.
Amen.
And we have to do everything we can to make sure that that happens.
But as a mechanical question, it's not a trick question, it's just like the mechanics of it, something you're thinking about since you're running. I don't think anyone would say Joe Biden was a great candidate.
No.
Didn't campaign.
He didn't campaign at all.
He was not a figure who commanded respect among Democrats. They made fun of him. I'm not attacking the guy, but that's true.
Right.
Nobody in Washington said, I want my kid to grow up to be Joe Biden. And yet, at the end, he's got 81 million votes. 15 million more than Barack Obama, who, whatever you think of him, was a very talented politician, and I think smart. So, like, how did he do that? And what can we learn from that?
Well,
and of course, honorable mention here, Asa, emphasis on the ass, Asa Hutchinson, somehow inexplicably from Arkansas, the former governor of Arkansas, replaced by the great Sarah Sanders, asked, how many COVID shots did you take? Oh, man. And Tucker goes, how about 0? Alpha moment here. Alpha energy. Take it.
And how many COVID shots did you take? And how do you feel about it now, in retrospect?
How many COVID shots did you take?
0.
Tucker Carlson is, of course, being lauded across the internet for this. All right, who's up next? Says the Columbia Bugle. Tucker Carlson lighting a fat stogie, ready to go. There are people who are actually answering good questions, however, and delivering excellent responses. It should act as no surprise to you that Vivek Ramaswamy is one of them. Tucker Carlson says maybe January 6th wasn't an insurrection. Vivek's answer is B-A-N-A-N-A-S, bananas. So good, so excellent, so thorough and thought out. This is why this man is rising like a shooting star in the polls.
So let's just go through the list. Another thing you can't say is that maybe January 6th, while appalling on one level, maybe it was not an insurrection.
So let me talk about. I haven't talked about this much in the campaign. I'll be very honest with you. You want to know what caused January 6th? There's such a temptation to say that there's one man whose name is unspeakable. We can't.
No, first of all, it's QAnon. It's QAnon.
It's QAnon. You want to know what caused January 6th? Is pervasive censorship in this country in the lead up to January 6th. You tell people in this country they cannot speak, that is when they scream. You tell people they cannot scream, that is when they tear things down. And so the reality is, we were told that you could not question where the virus came from when we all knew it came from a lab in Wuhan, which now they admit. We were told that you could not send a private message to someone on the eve of an election that Hunter Biden's laptop story was actually a true story worth considering before an election. You were systematically suppressed. So think about this. You told you had to be locked down, had to take a vaccine that was mandated and forced down your throat, stay locked down in your home while Antifa and BLM roam and burn the streets of this country. So that's the lead up of one full year of telling people you have to shut up, sit down, and do as you're told. And then you tell them, okay, there's an election where you didn't get the information that you needed, such as the Hunter Biden laptop story being real and suppressed. That's what caused January 6th, is a cycle of censorship in this country. And until we look ourselves in the mirror and admit truth on that, we will not move forward as a country. And I think that's the real cause. And we're not, and I'm sorry to say this, Tucker, but I think until we reckon with that reality, I worry that is the beginning of, it's a friendly parley compared to what's to come, unless we step up and speak truth, restore integrity, and actually lead us to who we are as a people, rather than sweeping the truth under the rug.
People online, Emerald Robinson, a great reporter, saying it looks like the Blaze TV conspired with Tucker Carlson to decimate the field of lame GOP candidates by setting up this debate. Simply a massacre of GOP donors and their pet. This guy, Zachary Henry, saying, if you cannot handle this chair, Tucker Carlson here at the Family Policy Alliance, then you cannot handle this chair. Such a great point. Really, really excellent point there. And Sean Davis saying, there's a reason the GOP establishment desperately wanted Tucker Carlson off the airwaves. His questioning today shows he's one-man wrecking ball against the garbage establishment talking points, neocon ideology. Just roasting. And that's exactly right. Who wanted Tucker off the air more? Republicans, establishment Republican cucks and rhinos, or libs? That is actually a very good question that you should put out there and ask yourself. Who wanted Tucker off the air more? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think I know the answer to that one. These individuals do not deserve to be president. They should drop out of the race right now. They've been humiliated. Mike Pence especially, but Nikki Haley, very poor performance. Tim Scott, poor performance. Asa Hutchinson, who the hell is that guy? There is one guy, though, who did an absolutely excellent job on an answer that I thought was just jaw-dropping. And we would be remiss without putting this at the end of the video. Is Vivek Ramaswamy talking about forever war and the warmongering establishment. This is so good. Check it out.
Time with them. We saw yesterday that a group of reservists has been called up to Europe, apparently, to prepare for war with Russia. Of people in the age cohort who might plausibly be called up to do that, what's the response?
I think there is no basis for us to send our young men and women, our sons and daughters, people my age or any age, to go defend somebody else's border halfway around the world when we should be using our own military to secure our own border in this country. And I will not apologize for that. We have to put the interests of this country first. And one of the things that does frustrate me, Tucker, is that this is one issue where I so love many of the other people who are running for this nomination for president. I think most of us, and the entire field I speak for, are in this for the right reasons. We are people who care about our country and want to deliver our country to a better place. But on this issue, nearly our entire field is indistinguishable in practice from where Biden is on this, which is in an undefined, ill-defined way pouring more money into a war that I think is destined to become Vietnam or Iraq all over again. And if you don't learn from the lessons of the past, you're going to be making the same mistakes on an even larger scale going forward. We have to end this war. We can end this war and start prioritizing the interests of actual U.S. citizens here at home.
So I think, judging by the response you just got, I think a chunk of, I don't know what percentage, but a lot of Republican primary voters agree with you. Not all, but a lot. I don't think any Republican donors agree with you.
I think that's accurate. And I've lost, to be really honest with you, I've lost many large donors or prospective donors over this issue. And it puzzles me. Because I think the tempting thing to say is to have some conspiratorial explanation that they have money at stake in government contractors, Raytheon, or whatever. I don't think that's true, actually. I think there's something else going on in the psychology of an establishment in both the Republican Party and the Democrat Party that is reluctant to the idea that we somehow can't be the ones fighting the war that's the popular war of the day, the politically correct war. I think there's no such thing as a politically correct war. And so what I ask is, how are we actually going to end this conflict in a way that advances U.S. interests? And the thing that puzzles me, Tucker, is nobody in either party is talking about this right now. The Russia-China alliance is the single greatest threat that the U.S. actually faces today. And we are pushing Russia closer into China's arms by actually continuing to arm Ukraine. So what I've said is that I would negotiate a deal that ends the Ukraine war, frees the current lines of control. Yes, that means giving part of the Donbas region to Russia. I would make a hard commitment that NATO never admits Ukraine to NATO. And those seem like unspeakable words in certainly the Republican donor class. But we get something greater in return, which is that Putin, in that case, would have to exit his military partnership with China and remove nuclear weapons from Kaliningrad, which border Poland, and get the Russian military out of Cuba and Venezuela and the West. And this is a deal that Putin should do because he ends up winning. He gets things that he doesn't have today. But it secures American interests, too. And I do think in a weird way, it does take an outsider to get that job done. Because if you want someone to fix a problem, you don't turn over the keys to somebody who actually broke the thing in the first place. If you want to fix it, maybe have somebody who didn't break it in the first place, and that's part of why I'm in this race as an outsider.
Okay, well, since you're getting radical now, let's go through a list of all the other things you're not allowed to say. So you've just said, you know, you're not attacking anybody, but this doesn't seem to be helping us. In fact, it seems to be creating an alliance that we can't beat, and really, it's pretty scary. So let's just go through the list. Another thing you can't say is that maybe January 6th, while appalling on one level, maybe it was not an insurrection.
So let me talk about, I haven't talked about this much in the campaign. I'll be very honest with you. You want to know what caused January 6th? There's such a temptation to say that there's one man whose name is unspeakable. We can't.
No, first of all, it's QAnon. It's QAnon.
It's QAnon. You want to know what caused January 6th? Is pervasive censorship in this country in the lead up to January 6th. You tell people in this country they cannot speak, that is when they scream. You tell people they cannot scream, that is when they tear things down. And so the reality is, we were told that you could not question where the virus came from when we all knew it came from a lab in Wuhan, which now they admit. We were told that you could not send a private message to someone on the eve of an election that Hunter Biden's laptop story was actually a true story worth considering before an election. You were systematically suppressed. So think about this. You told you had to be locked down, had to take a vaccine that was mandated and forced down your throat, stay locked down in your home while Antifa and BLM roam and burn the streets of this country. So that's the lead up of one full year of telling people you have to shut up, sit down, and do as you're told. And then you tell them, okay, there's an election where you didn't get the information that you needed, such as the Hunter Biden laptop story being real and suppressed. That's what caused January 6th, is a cycle of censorship in this country. And until we look ourselves in the mirror and admit truth on that, we will not move forward as a country. And I think that's the real cause. And we're not, and I'm sorry to say this, Tucker, but I think until we reckon with that reality, I worry that is the beginning of, it's a friendly parley compared to what's to come.